I've always been intrigued by stories and how they connect our world. Sadly enough, many times we're defined by what culture says is right, our shame, and even our past. In our busy world filled with work, highlight reels, and social isolation, it's imperative that we honor community and real relationship. Joy is our portion, love is our anchor, and I think that what we'll find is that our stories bring us closer together, even when the world tries to bring us further apart. So I decided to start a series where I'll be interviewing influencers to see how the effects of culture, shame, and mental health have had an impact on their journeys. I want to let you in so we can grow together. This is Mental Wealth.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Perkins. I'm your host of Mental Wealth. I've got a really exciting guest on. Alex Ferguson is a professional model, health and wellness coach, and a mental health advocate. And I've got her here today and I can't wait. So I'm going to go ahead and just bring her on. Alex, welcome.
Hi. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing so well. It's so great to see your face and just have you here today. Just so excited.
I'm excited. I'm excited to just talk all things about mental health, mental wealth, all of it.
Definitely. Well, let's just get started. I mean, how was your experience just like during COVID? Like what happened? Where were you? Tell us a little bit about that.
I was in Indiana. I spent most of my time in Southern Indiana, which is where I'm from originally. I actually left, I was living in New York City, and I left New York City the weekend before everything shut down. And so,
wow.
Yeah, so I escaped the city, and I spent most of the time in Southern Indiana, and then I would come and visit Nashville from time to time, which is where I live now.
Okay. Wow. So you got out right before everything happened. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was a blessing for sure.
Were you praying? Was that just the voice of the Lord just came in? Like, how did you know to leave?
In all honesty, I hit one of the lowest points in my life. I was in a really dark place, and I think that God uses everything for good. So I think it was like I was allowed to kind of fall so that I'd get out and get better. And so blessing in disguise, honestly.
Wow. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to get into your career and just, I know how awesome you are, and I want everyone else just to learn more about you, but tell us just like where you grew up, how did you get your start?
I am from Southern Indiana, born and raised. So basically almost the border of Indiana and Kentucky. And I started modeling when I was 14, just kind of doing local stuff. And when I was 18, I snuck away to Chicago with my best friend before we were supposed to go off to college. And two agencies there wanted to sign me, Ford and Elite, but parents being parents said, no, you're going to go to Purdue and you're going to go to school and pursue an education. I lasted at Purdue for about a year. It was not for me. And I ended up going out to Los Angeles and getting into fashion school. And I think I was 19 when I signed with my first agency out there. And I just kind of fell into it. So I've been doing it for a long time, since I was 14. I'm not afraid to say my age. I'm 31. So it's been a while.
Definitely. I mean, wow,
Yeah.
19 with your first contract. Were you scared? Were you nervous? Was this like your big break? Like, what was that like?
It was very interesting because I was interning for a man who represented models back in the 90s and early 2000s. And he had this whole concept of trying to get models, start them young like they do normally, and kind of create this big worldwide, I don't know how you would, modeling agency. And so I was interning for him. He caught wind that I wanted to model. So he set up a test shoot, and I shot with this couple who they were starting a plus size agency. And at the time I was probably about the size that I am now, and 19 years old. I went and did the photo shoot, reviewed the images with the man I was working for. And he basically told me my stomach wasn't flat enough. I was too old to get my start in modeling at 19 years old, and that I would never make it in this industry. So fast forward, I end up signing with this Curve agency, and that's kind of how I started my my modeling career in Los Angeles.
Wow. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, to have those words spoken over you at such a young age at the beginning of your career, I mean, that's insane. Looking back on that, what did you take away from that experience? Because I can't imagine what that would feel like just starting
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. I was, Southern Indiana girl, fragile still. But I had a moment actually recently while I was home during COVID, and back at all my comp cards and all my books and everything that you collect over the years of modeling. And I just thought, man, if I could send all these images to him and say some not very nice things and say, look, I made it. You said I was never going to make it. I guess what I took from that was just like, you've got to have thick skin if you're going to do this, Alex. And so I then developed really thick skin and just kind of went for it.
Yeah, I mean, wow, kudos to you for continuing to move forward just in your calling and what you believe is what you're supposed to do. I mean, talk to some viewers about, I just kind of want to pause there for a second. I mean, to the young girl that wants to get involved with modeling, or to that person maybe that just got their first deal and they're getting the same type of response that, when we talk about body image, especially when it relates to women, and men too, of course, but what would you say to that person that is experiencing that event to where they're being told they're not good enough, they don't look a certain way, they're not a certain size? What would your encouragement be to them?
I would say, you know, it's not just the modeling industry that discriminates. Girls and guys get that in all sorts of jobs and at school or whatever. I think remembering your purpose and what what God's called you to do and who he says you are, and remembering that and not going down the rabbit hole of what other people think and letting that fester and spiral you out. That's my biggest piece of advice on that one, is just remember who God says you are, remember who you are. And if you're still kind of searching for who you are, remembering that you do have a purpose and you're put on this earth for something good.
Come on, Alex. I love this. Yes.
Yeah.
That is so good. What was your journey like finding out, talking about discovering who we are, discovering our purpose, discovering our identity? These are things that sometimes can overwhelm us. I mean, some days you feel like, man, I got this, I know what I'm supposed to do. And other days you're like, I mean, where's the plan B? So,
right. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Sorry. I was ready to jump in.
No, go ahead.
Well, I struggled for years on that. Where's my identity? And I found that in a lot of things that were unhealthy: drugs, alcohol, people, the partying lifestyle. I got sucked into that when I lived in LA. And I have also struggled with an eating disorder. So that's what I started to put a lot of my worth and identity in. And, over the years, as I've gotten sober and gotten healthy, I've learned what my purpose is. I've learned who I am. And, I don't regret anything that I've been through, and I'm now able to use it all for good. And it took time, and it does sometimes take time, like really searching, asking God who you are, asking like yourself, like, what do you want? What do you value? Who do you want to be? And I think it's really important to remember that, like I said before, you do have a purpose and you are on this earth for a good reason.
I love that, especially to your point of like recognizing and coming to that conclusion of who you want to be. I think so many people struggle is because maybe they don't know, or they may not have an idea of what they want, or maybe they have that idea or they think it's not within reach. Can you think of a time of maybe an epiphany or a moment to where it reminded you, this is what I'm supposed to do?
I've had a couple moments. I 1920, I was actually working with a body image campaign, and we got to go speak at a high school in Washington State. And I got to share some of my story of my eating disorder. And, you know, looking back, I was in the midst of all of it. I was still doing drugs. I was still doing, you know, struggling. But I knew in that moment when I started to speak to others and see them kind of recognize that they had worth, and that, you know, even though I'm a model, I'm a human as well. And this, you know, my work may look glamorous, but I still struggle as well. So I think that was probably the first time I recognized, okay, I'm supposed to help people. And then I would say over the last few years, just realizing that I love modeling. It's been a very fun and interesting career, but I know that there's more. And I know at the like bottom of my heart that I'm supposed to help women, and my purpose is to help them get healthy mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. So that's, I think, just kind of as I began to work on myself and realize my worth, that was what helped me pivot to realize, okay, I need to do something more than just modeling.
I love that. I mean, and I have to say, you're just radiant. I mean, you're just
Oh, thank you.
radiant. I love that. It's so amazing to just, you know, meet people who love what they do. I think it really does have an effect on our life and our mental health. You know, I can think of times where I was stuck in jobs that I hated, and it just rolled over into just not having a good day and just being like, just so frustrated with life. I think when
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I think
Oh, it
it's
bleeds out to everything, like
yeah.
everything you do, friendships, families, relationships. You know, if you're involved in anything outside of work, it's just, yeah, it flows over, and not in a good way.
Right, I know. And so it's like, did you have like any passion projects too? Like I always love to ask people that have like their main thing. Like, what are
Mhm.
your passion projects that kind of help fuel that if you're maybe taking a break, or you know, maybe not on contract? What are some of those passion?
Yeah. I love, you know, just being outdoors and being active. That's one thing that's helped me. But I'm actually starting a podcast that is going to be my passion project, and it's a podcast that is going to inspire women to recognize their worth. And the podcast is called Worthy of. And so that is my passion project that I am currently working on, where I'm going to interview. And this has been on my heart for a long time. Back whenever people were blogging, I thought, okay, well, I'll just do it in written form, you know, interview written form style. And then I just never went through with it. And then I would say in the last year or so, I've been like, okay, I know I'm supposed to do this. I keep feeling the push to do this. What the heck am I going to name it? But I always had the idea of interviewing women who have been through hell and back, you know. How did they overcome? How did they decide that they were worthy of something different or a change? Or, you know, they've been labeled or pigeonholed into this one area in their life, and they realize, okay, that's not where my worth lies. I want to do something different. So that will be my passion project coming up, where I'm just going to be interviewing and sharing stories, and sharing my story as well, and kind of an overall lifestyle wellness podcast.
I love it. I love it. Yes, you guys heard it here.
Yes.
Worthy of.
Yes, 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 yes.
That's such a powerful name. How did you think of the name Worthy of?
I prayed about it a lot, because I was like, okay, God, what am I going to name this thing? Like, I want to make an impact. You know, I make an impact in my coaching business, but I want to be able to provide value outside of coaching, and doing it by sharing other stories and having the platform to do so. But honestly, there's a song on my like playlist, like all, you know, Christian artists, and the song sings, I think it's called Worthy of It All. And I kept thinking, worthy of, worthy of, that's it. Like, that's what I'm gonna call it. So, because that's the one thing that I've just noticed over the years, especially with myself. I've put my worth in so many things that were not fulfilling. And I've watched people, especially women, their worth in things that are of no value. And so I want to help women see that they are worthy of something better, different, you know, even, I don't know, better than what they've had. So, yeah.
Yes. Let's go. I mean, we can start singing on here tonight.
Yeah,
if we
right.
need
Let's
to.
do it.
I love that. I love that. Okay, so I always love people that are involved with the modeling industry. What did you think about this whole like America's Next Top Model syndication of like what were your thoughts just when all that was coming out?
Gosh, well, Next Top Model came out whenever high school, so I was just like dying to be a model anyway. And I would watch it upstairs in my bonus room. And when they'd have like challenges, I would like bring my a mirror, a full length mirror, and do them in the mirror because I was like, I want to be a model. And actually, funny enough, I auditioned for ANTM and I got pretty far, but season where there was a lot of unconventional models, like models with a lot of tattoos and things like of that sort. So I think that might have been one reason. And also, I was 27, I think, when I applied, so that's old for them. But I, as much as the modeling industry is not really like that, I loved the show a lot.
I know that was I think everybody like '06, '07, '08. It's
Yeah.
still, I don't even know if it's still going on, but so much success. Shout out to Tyra Banks. If you're watching this, we love you.
Yeah. Oh, Tyra.
Yeah. And that's so funny you mentioned about your playlist too, because I was going to ask you, like, what are your 2 or 3 top favorite songs right now? And it doesn't have to be Worthy of It All.
Don't do this to me. There's so many good ones. My summer jam right now is Dua Lipa Levitating. I don't know why. It's like windows down, sunroof open. I know you live in New York, so you're probably not blasting with the windows open in a car.
Right.
But for me, I'm like, yes, that's one. Oh, it's so hard to, in all honesty, I always catch myself singing Amazing Grace. I think that'll forever be on my top chart. I love country music as well. I can't name anything off the top of my head at the moment, but yeah.
That is so cool.
That was probably horrible answers, but
no, come on, no, that's great. So when you think about empowering young women and being a light in your career, what does it look like when we think about like the different spheres of influence? And when you think about modeling, I guess my first question would be, did you have a specific model or influencer that you looked up to? Yeah, like who was that person for you?
didn't with modeling. I mean, there were girls that I was like, oh, I want to be like that, or I want to have those kind of campaigns, or whatever it may be. But I really didn't, because when I started modeling in Los Angeles, I was about a size 6'8", and once you hit about a size 8, you're considered to be on the curve board, the plus size. So that was when body diversity wasn't a big thing yet. Models were just models. You didn't have models that, it was like, you're a hanger, don't have a personality, don't do anything other than be a pretty face. So I didn't have a lot of influence, or people that I looked up to. I mean, Tyra Banks kind of made a way by speaking out and doing more than just modeling. I mean, she's they call her a mogul, so she's done so many things, but there wasn't really anybody that I truly looked up to. I did really value the models of the 90s because they actually they had some body to them. There were curves and they just weren't waifs. So right. I kind of looked up to that era of modeling, but not so much anyone in particular.
Yeah. No, definitely. I always love asking people that, just to see, like, because influence is such a big thing. We're influenced by things all the time, even if it's not in the modeling industry. Who's someone that you just like look up to just in your own life?
Well, she's one of my mentors and a very good friend. Her name's Marie P. Anderson, and she has worked in the industry for, I don't know, longer than I've been alive, I'm sure. And she's a model advocate, and she's, gone up a lot of opposition. She's, there's been a lot that the industry doesn't like, that people speak out about like the sexual impropriety and the over sexualization of models. She's very big about speaking out and protecting models. And so she's been a huge influence in my life for, I don't know how many years now. I met her in 2017, I think, around the same time that I met Jeanette, actually. So she's one of them. And then I would say I call her my spiritual mama, but she's been a huge influence in my life as well. Just kind of not taking any crap and going with what God's called her to do and be.
I love that. Tell us, Alex, to what degree has faith, because I know you're a woman of faith, to what degree has faith played a role in just not even just as your career, but also just as a human, like faith?
Yeah. Well, I grew up in the church. I grew up going to church, but when I was in high school, I kind of became very rebellious, and so I actually stepped away from God and kind of turned my back and said, "Screw, any relationship with God," for many years. But when I was in the midst of my drug addiction, I found myself going to church a couple times, and the third time I went was when everything shifted, and I kind of gave my life back to Christ, and realized that I needed something bigger than me in those moments. And it's not been a steady path. I've struggled, because when you're going through any form of addiction, you're going to have highs and lows, and love yourself one day and not the next. And the same with your relationship with God. And so it has been foundational, really, overall. And I can't imagine my life now without my relationship with God, because it's what saved my life. I was headed down a very bad path, and I'm blessed to be alive.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. That's beautiful,
Yeah.
first of all,
Yeah.
and I just commend you for having the strength, first of all, to talk about it, but also how you overcame. How did you get out of that situation?
Oh, well, I hit a lot of rock bottoms. God's allowed me to fall, but not too far where I can't get back up.
Mm,
But I had a moment where I took some drugs that I don't think were what I had intended to take, and had a really horrible experience. And kind of from that point on, I was like, no more. And then last year, I hit my rock bottom in March of 2020, where my eating disorder was controlling my life, and it was a 15-year buildup, and I finally just cracked, and was not well mentally. I was very suicidal, and so I had to fall to get back up. And so last year was a lot of me. I knew who I was, and I knew what I wanted to do with my life. I knew my purpose, but I had to get healthy, and I had to forgive myself for a lot of the things that I've, endured and put myself through. And so how I've gotten over it is just, getting down and dirty and falling down and getting up, and, staring some of these demons in the face and saying no more. And so I am where I am because of my faith, but I'm glad that I fell so I could get back up and now help others do the same.
I love that. I love that. And I so appreciate you being so open about that. And you touched on 2 points. One of them is forgiveness. I think, we all talk a lot about forgiving other people, but I think it's one of the most difficult things to forgive ourselves, right? Forgive ourselves just for where we've gone, and just through God's grace and his mercy and his kindness to allow us to fall, but get back up again.
Yeah.
Which is even scriptural, right?
Yep.
But yeah, and I also think us sharing our stories, just us here talking and whoever is listening to this, I think just the words of our testimony just create faith in an atmosphere for other people to know that, hey, I maybe struggle with this. It might not be the same exact story or the same exact circumstance, but because she got through it, because he got through it, I know that I can get through. And there's power in that. And I so believe in you, and I believe in your story. And just from even looking, at your body of work and just hearing your story here today, I am so glad that you're still here, and that there's so much inside of you. So much, I think, that you haven't even uncovered yet, that the world has
I'm sure. I'm sure. Yeah. And that's the thing. I thought, if I'm going to hit these lows, and I can either stay down here with all the mess that I've created or endured, or I can get up and share my story, because there's a lot to it. I mean, we could uncover it for days if you wanted to, but there are bits and pieces that everybody would be able to relate to. And so, my mission is to help others get healthy, and that looks different for so many different people. But by sharing my story, one, it gets it out of the dark, but it also makes me relatable and maybe inspire someone to do something different and notice their worth.
Most definitely. Yes. So in our last 2 minutes, I wish this was longer because I have so many questions for you. But
Well, you can have me back. I will gladly come back.
I would love for you to come back. We're going to do a part 2, guys. I promise. But I want to give you the floor again, and just to that person that's listening. I mean, I know, like, we all just came out of this crazy pandemic and we're trying to figure it out, myself included. My whole world changed. Relationships are changing, work and career and our world and everything. But specifically, I want to give you the floor just to encourage that person. What would you say to them that feels like today is their rock bottom? What would you say to them?
Have tomorrow. And so it's like, get up now, and know that you are purposed for so much, and that, it might suck where you're down there right now, but that one step up is going to feel so much better. You've just got to reach out to the people who love you, or who people like your support system. If you don't have a support system and you're in a rock bottom, there's so many resources out there as well. And I think that's one thing a lot of people do not do, is they're afraid to reach out for help. And that's where they stay in that rock bottom, or they keep falling back. And so I will say, once you can get all of that crap out of the dark and into the light, it no longer holds its power over you like it has in the past. And so it might feel shameful to ask for help, but I'm living proof that if you ask for help, you can get up and you can do way more with that support.
I love that. And I also second that.
Yes.
Alex, where can people find you if they want to connect with you?
Yeah, Instagram, just at the Alex Ferguson. And, if you need somebody or some sort of support or resource, I'm a good resource, and just DM me and we'll start chatting.
I love it. Thank you again for being with us today.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, I can't wait to see all of what you do. And once you come back for the second time,
Part 2.
So, guys, this is Mental Wealth with Alex Ferguson. We're so glad that you joined us today, and we'll see you next time.